to talk about a few of the maps that came in. So this is a first map. What's really nice about this is the focus is on the continental U.S. The legend is simple. The scale bar is at 1,000. The pink, not appropriate. Pink is it's a big color for a lot of areas, so I'd go with a more subtle color for this. Common problem is that I would take that title down about halfway between where it is now and the top of the map. I would move that down a little. So this is really common to have your title up here. I would move it down a little bit closer to the map. Couple people focused in on the United States like this, which is great. And then somebody said it's all skewed, and they're absolutely correct, because this is set for a global projection. So if you were getting completely fancy with this, you could go into layers. We're going to do this next week, but if you wanted to get fancy, you could go into the layers property, and under the coordinate system, you've got projected and unprojected coordinate systems. So you could choose a projected coordinate system for North America for the United States, which would change that look of the U.S. And then you'd probably have to kind of change your map a little bit to zoom that into the area, but that's a really easy fix. That's called projecting on the fly. So with this map, changing the color pink and projecting on the fly would be lovely. I wouldn't expect you to know about projecting on the fly at this point. Let's take a look. I have another one here. Where is that one? Must already be open. Let's look. Where is it? Is it back there? Nope. Alright, well, we're just going to do it from over here instead. Hold on. Got way too many windows open. Yeah, this one, really nice. Colors are great on this. Again, projecting on the fly would be lovely, but not necessary. Scale bars at 1,000. The hierarchy is beautiful. Again, I would move that title down just a little bit. Legends, the legend is too big. It doesn't need to be that big, because that really is one of the more bold things on the map. And I would take that north arrow compass rose down a little bit. But the colors work really well on that one. This one I thought was really fun. This person used the portrait orientation for South America. She has city population of South America. The north arrow is fine. Scale bar needs to be 1,000 or 15 rather than 12. World, this should be spelled out. The one thing that Faith did on this, she got really fancy with symbolizing the cities by their population. And because this is quantitative data, she should have used one color scheme here. And again, way beyond on the scope of what was being asked. But she went into properties for the cities under the symbols, chose quantity, graduated symbol, and she did the population. So yeah, so there you can do that. And then she even went in and changed the label so that there were not so many decimals. In fact, there were no decimals, because we're not having decimals of people, which simplified the legend a little bit. The one thing that, where did she get that color scheme? Yeah, you have to kind of go in with this, and so what I would do if I wanted to do graduated colors, I would click on that, make that the darkest color, and then go with that and go up one I've lost which color scheme I'm in here. And then the problem with the little one is the black line almost colors the whole black line. So with that one, you might choose no color for that, all that just goes away. And maybe just something a little lighter. So then that would meet the criteria for graduated symbol. So a common error is just to take the default on the legend, so you get the frame right around that, and it kind of crowds things. So the way to fix that is double-click the legend, and then under the, you can add a neat line or not. So if you have a border, then you can put a gap around the border. So this is the X gap, north-south, and that's the Y gap, east-west. So you can do that, and then you can add color. But if you don't put a gap around the color, you're going to see that the color, the border goes out here and then the color is there. So if I double click that and put that same gap around the color, then that fills in the legend like that. So this map really has no focus. It's kind of showing all of the possible data. And the legend is lovely on this one, but all of those cities, they're pretty crowded. I mean, if you called it World City Distribution or Major City Distribution, that might be fine. But then you don't need to put Canada and the US as separate layers over here. And again, the pink is not great. So the title doesn't give you much information about the map. This one is pretty lovely. Again, move the title down. The legend is great. The scale is great. The thing I would do here is I would make Mexico and Canada the same color, because you're kind of looking at this and wondering, well, why are these three different colors? So that would be my only moving the title and moving that, changing that color. This one works really well, except again, the north arrow is black and too large. The title's state should be capitalized, and I've moved that down a skosh more. The pink for a major region is not a great color. And then again, two different colors for Mexico and Canada. I'd take Canada off and then just make everything that same color toward the end. And I'm not sure, the scale bar is at 15. It's a little hard to read, so you might go with 1,000 so that you can maybe get it so that, in fact, you might move the US over a little bit and try your scale here so you can actually read the end of that scale bar there. This one, the colors the legend again is great. Scale at 2000 is great. The text hierarchy is lovely. But I would make, again, take Canada off so that the country layer is underneath. I would also zoom in on the continental US to make that the focus of the map, because this has got way too much white space on this one. Let's see, good balance on this. Again, Canada and Mexico should be probably the same color. The north arrow is pretty lovely. Just take this either up to 2000 or down to 1500 and put some gaps on that legend. You could take off actually all of these Canada, the United States, and countries, because those are pretty obvious, and then a title that makes sense. So major cities and rivers of the continental United States, something like that would be great. This one, again, the United States is a lot bigger than major cities, so I would make that just a little bit smaller so that it's not too big a jump. I was at first kind of like, this dark gray for the US, but actually, if you took Mexico and Canada and turned those a light gray, that might actually work. width, because kind of black and white maps are pretty nice, but it is a big area for that. Again, put a gap on your legend, and oh, this is so close to 1,000, but pull that out to get that 1,000 spot. And then this one, again, move the title down. The hierarchy is good, and the focus of the map is really good on this one. I think I may have talked about that already. So just some easy tips to think about for your first map, and if you correct those comments and resubmit, I'll be glad to add those points back.